Call this meeting to order. This is the April 27th, 2026 New Garden Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board met prior to this meeting for an executive session. That was the only executive session since last month's township board meeting. Next, we'll move into the public comment session. First, if there's any public comment on non-agenda items, keep that to a 3-minute time limit, and then we'll have public comment on agenda items if we can keep that to 3 minutes too. Stacy, is yours an agenda item or not? No, okay. Doesn't look like there's any public comment on non-agenda items. I mean, on agenda items, if you want to come up. Yep, yeah, if you can just come up and introduce yourself, your address and your name.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Lecchia, and I reside in the Birmingham subdivision. I live on Richards Way. I'm bringing something forward this evening due to an ongoing issue within the community. New Garden Township approved the Birmingham subdivision as well as many other subdivisions within our county or our municipality with the requirement that the HOA be created to own, maintain, enforce the infrastructure and obligations tied to the to the approved plan. That creates the reliance by homeowners, lenders, the township, that the systems will function as designed. But that structure in place today, it does not align with what was approved for the Birmingham neighborhood. I cannot speak for all other neighborhoods, but I do know at this present time, it's not occurring in the Birmingham neighborhood. The declaration was recorded in February of 2004. So obviously 20 plus years ago. Months later, a unilateral amendment was changed to changed maintenance responsibilities tied to the subdivision infrastructure with no evidence of township review or approval, with a specific statement in that amendment that township review and approval was not required as they were not changing anything. But yet infrastructure was changed. And there was also more of a self-serving clause put in there for a specific lot within the community. That misalignment is showing up in real impacts. HOA funds are being used for land surveys and streetscape costs that have already been interpreted by the original subdivision plan. At the same time, the township required system, emergency access to fire hydrants, stormwater, and safety easements are not being maintained under a clear, consistent structure. I have provided communications, and the fire marshal also did opine and tied it back to the subdivision approval that it is the requirement of the HOA to maintain, and that is not happening. At the same time, homeowners are being denied access to records needed to verify compliance and financial viability of the HOA, and our funds are being removed from the reserve funds to cover operating expenses for shortfalls from misaligned or non-budgeted expenses. Homeowners, this breakdown of the township required system, we can't opt out of it. It's mandatory. Buying into this, we believe or assume that it's operating as designed. So our lenders are relying on it. I, as a homeowner, was relying on it. There was nothing in the disclosure or the resale cert that indicated that the system was not functioning properly and as designed. So with that, my question is, what mechanism does the township have to ensure that HOA governance and infrastructure obligations remain consistent with subdivision approval? And is there no mechanism? What protects homeowners from the consequences, of homeowners of a system township required? So let me rephrase that because I did stutter. And if there's no mechanism, what protects the homeowners from the consequences of a system the township required that is failing? Thank you. I did print out a couple things.
No.
response. Is there anything? No. No? I would love to do that. Okay.
Thanks, Stacy. We're going to just rearrange the agenda for a second. We're going to go to the public safety report for the Avondale Fire Company next.
Got a class going on, I'd like to attend. This is Mike Siskey, he's one of our career captains. He's been helping out with some stuff, but if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. Share real quick. I don't want to read it. Okay. It's in the packet. Go to the next. Okay, what you see here is our profit and loss for the first quarter. To the left side is the fire department. You can see that the income was 120,568. The reason, and then total expenses. Where's that? Was 170,000, so it gives us a 48,000 or $49,000 deficit. Don't get concerned about that. That is just for the first quarter. That's the only checks we got in so far was from New Garden for the first quarter or towards the end of the year. We have gotten more checks in April, or May, I'm sorry. We gotten checks in, and also previous balances for the just so everybody's aware that, you know, things are good. Previous balances right now since the end of April 2023, we have $746,000. Now, with that said, there's an operating checkbook, there's a building maintenance fund that we keep for maintenance, and the rest of it is for truck fund for apparatus replacement. So that's why that, you know, we separated the accounts out. To the right side is the EMS. You can see where we brought in 406,324.48. That's for billing, donations, and checks. And total expenditures was 399, and we have a 7,000 to the good. And also with that, our EMS accounts at the beginning or the end at the beginning of the year were totaling 653,000. They're again operating payroll account, ambulance replacement account. So like I say, well, I'm not too concerned about that. That'll change next quarter. So next slide, unless someone has any questions on the funding. Good. This is year to date for fire departments, 230 calls. You can see the call types on the right-hand side. Next. This is for January. You can see where 61.4% of the calls were in New Garden Township, 35 out of 57. Good, next. You can see where Squad 23 has been running a lot of calls. That was due to the engine being out of service for so long, waiting for parts from the damage from the accident. It's now back in service. So there again, you'll see some changes on that on the next quarter. Good. This is February. There again, we're running about the same 62.86 for New Garden Township for fire calls. Next. There again, the squad ran most of the calls due to the engine being out of service. March report, there again, we're right there at 62.86. Good. And there again, squad was running because we just got it back at the end of March and it's back in service and we're swapping and, taking some pressure off the squad and running it a little bit more. So, good. That is the fire report for the quarter. If any questions, if not, we'll move on to EMS. Okay, EMS, you got 471 calls total for the first quarter. Call breakdowns to the right. Good. January, we run 72.73% of calls in New Garden. Out of 155, we ran 120 calls in New Garden. You can see the runs there. Ambulance 23 ones run most of the calls, 135. On the right-hand column, that's who, you can see where the ambulance from Avondale has run the calls, and then you got Medic 94 is running with us for the advanced life support. Other ambulances may have been taking second calls in the district for us because we were already out, or they may have been assisting on an accident or something. So, okay. February, you were at 75.52%, 108 calls out of 143. Okay. There again, you can see ambulance 23-1. It's running most of the calls, and then moving on down, you can see the other apparatus running. Good. And then there's March, where we're right there in the mid 70s at 118, and total calls of 165. So, okay. And then there's March, we're at actually 45. We went down in March a little bit. Good. And then if there's any questions on it.
Are we on a similar track as we were last year with ambulance calls?
Excuse me?
Are we on a similar track as we were last year
Yes.
to break another record with ambulance calls?
Yes, we're probably looking at 2,000 maybe plus ambulance calls this year, for 2026. Staffing wise has been pretty good, been filling the shifts pretty regular. There again, we got, we put in, just back to fire a little bit, not to interrupt, but we put in for some grants. Main grants we put in for is to redo our key lock system. So it's compatible with Westgrove with the merger coming, so that all 4 stations will have one key fob. Christine Sappy's office and John Kane's office is giving us money for that. And then we put in for mushroom grant for some odds and ends for the apparatus. And I'd like to thank Chris for allowing Linda to help us do kind of proofread the grants, make sure it's looking good and helping us send them off. So it's been a great help. But moving forward, we did have some personnel changes. I'm sure everybody's aware of that. We're moving through it. Been very transparent with everybody, and we'll continue to be. So.
Do you know off the top of your head the percentage of sign-offs? It's very small.
The refusals?
Refusals, sign-offs.
I don't have that. I did not.
So, and you can text me or whatever.
I'll
I
text
just,
it to you. I got it. on
just
my-
curious trends, different things.
Hopefully next quarter, the reports are, these reports here are the ones that the county generates.
Yes.
So we'll probably go back and generate our own like we did before, so you have more data and stuff like that. So this is just, like I say, with the personnel changes right now, just, what we have to do. But next quarter will definitely be much better report, and but I will email you that information.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Matter of fact, I think, Chris, I emailed you that report, correct? No, didn't I email you the other one that I found that was almost done?
I have to look back into it.
Yeah, if not, what I'll do, Stevie, for what we have done, I'll email it to Chris and he can share it with all of you. How about we do
Perfect.
that?
Thank you.
So,
That's all I have.
thank you. Thanks for the support. Thanks for doing what we do. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Enjoy your training.
Next, we're going to just go back to the public comment on agenda items. Claire Aiello, did you want to come up and speak? Did you have, I got a yellow slip of paper with your name on it. Did you want to speak? Yep, that's on the agenda, so feel free to come up and speak and announce yourself. You have 3 minutes.
Well, first of all, good evening to everybody here and there. My name is Clara Yellow, and I reside in Harlow Point, Landenberg. These comments and questions refer to the multi-use corridor light district. Again, I want to thank everyone involved in this zoning project, and a long one. I want to reiterate that we, the homeowners and residents of Harlow Point, Harrogate North, and Estates of Harrogate, have worked for the past 2 years with Chris, with Samantha McLean of Michael Baker International, the Planning Commission, the Limestone Road landowners, the task force, and you, the Board of Supervisors, on this project. I hope you realize and understand the amount of effort we have put forth to help ensure our neighborhoods are preserved and livable while New Garden Township can prosper and grow. I reviewed your April 20th published documents, both the New Garden Township zoning ordinance document, final draft dated April 20th, and its associated zoning ordinance and map update review. You have discrepancies in both documents that are urgent and need to be addressed. At least it's my assumption. I'll ask my question. Comparing the use designations published on March 20th versus April 20th, we find the following changes in the zoning ordinance use designations which are not highlighted in the update review. Drinking place, March 20th was not permitted. April 20th, it changed to permitted. Solar energy system principle, March 20th was special exception. April 20th, changed to permitted. Wireless communications facility, tower-based, March 20th was special exception. April 20th, changed to permitted. Trucking terminal, March 20th was not permitted. April 20th, changed to conditional. These are extraordinary drastic changes in use designations and are unwelcomed by homeowners and residents. So I guess my first question, are these, I mean, there's 128 uses, you know, you go one way or another and you're totally offline. So I'm wondering if these are typographical errors that just can be fixed and I kind of can go on my way. But if they're not, I'd truly like to understand what has changed between that document and this document. As you know, you see me in most of the meetings related to this topics and others, and I have not heard anyone in the audience nor yourselves talk about these items. So I'd like to understand if they're not typographical. I'd like to understand why the changes. And when I say drastic, you know, going from not permitted to permitted, that's a big change. Going from special exception to permitted, to me, those are big changes. That's why I said that they're drastically different. So, anything?
Chris, can you confirm, are they typos? I know we had some confusion with the boxes being checked and unchecked.
No, that's a good
Other
point.
issues.
So everything that was discussed at the last, I think, public March 23rd meeting, there were no, after we introduced that updated matrix and kind of walked the dog through all like 9 districts, there were no use changes at all. There was some clarification. So
We did.
if that's a mistake that was made, I mean, we can work back with Michael Baker. But otherwise, what was presented in 23rd should not have changed. So if that's the case, then we can even tonight discuss that during the thing and make sure that those are codified and made sure that they're reverted back to that March 23rd state. And I can work with Michael Baker to make sure that that's the case.
I know that there was obviously a change because at the last meeting, I said that event venue was missing, but it's back there. So believe me, I understand working, you know, on a document with all those lines is not easy nor fun, and usually has to be proofread up to the end, you know, whatever. So I can show you if you'd like, when you have a minute, like.
Yeah.
So as far as my other comments are concerned, they're not applicable, at least right now, they're not, right? I do, however, want to go on record, published either in the meeting minutes or wherever else you publish things, that from a homeowner, resident and homeowner point of view, representing our 3 neighborhoods closest to the Limestone Road corridor, we do still have some items that we are disagreeing with. I mean, we've come such a long way, and like I said, it's been a very long process, but I think it's important, we would feel being heard more so. So Chris, if you want, I can show you. And,
Yeah, we're going to
and
have
then
a
we'll-
public review of the ordinance later on in the meeting, and we can go through those if need be, just to make sure that we're getting them right. And that's for that discussion.
check others against the March 23rd, except for these. I mean, I don't like don't get me wrong, all the use designations on them, but these especially were different. Okay,
Yep.
thanks, guys
Thanks, Claire.
and women.
Next, we have a presentation by Tool Design on the Route 41 multimodal transportation design. Thank you for coming tonight.
Good evening. My name is Dan Linderman. I'm a resident of Somerset Lake and board chair of SAVE, Safety, Agriculture, Villages, and Environment. I'm here tonight along with fellow board members in the audience to introduce Tina Fink of Tool Design, who will present best practice recommendations to support a multimodal transportation design for Route 41. A written review was formally submitted to the board for consideration via memo dated April 17th, 2026. So our work with Tool Design started with the thought that we'd ask them to critique the White Clay Point traffic impact study. But after a quick review, we saw that the road modification proposal was so at odds with the New Garden Township transportation goals of implementing traffic calming and improving intersection safety and operations, it became apparent to us that a more comprehensive approach was warranted. Additionally, as many of you know, SAVE is advocating for a multi-municipal visioning process to guide transformation of Route 41 into a sustainable, unified, multimodal corridor, pairing placemaking strategies with roadway design cues. Since White Clay Point will set the stage for what happens up and down the corridor, we can't stress enough how important it is to get this right. As a result, we felt that the township would benefit significantly from expert guidance for how to ensure that the White Clay Point proposal, and any proposal for that matter, aligns transportation and community-centered improvements to achieve the best possible road modification outcomes. So, this evening, we're asking the township and the developer to think more broadly. For the township, when reviewing this application, please do not consider Act 209 plan a substitute for an intersection control evaluation process. For Stonewall, we understand your need for financial success, and as a resident, if you build this development, I want it to be successful for the community. I believe these goals can be compatible. Township residents deserve a comprehensive roadway proposal process. The design of intersection controls should include a thorough evaluation of alternatives to better inform decision-making when selecting a solution. Township residents are looking to the board to support and project an aspirational vision of Route 41 as a safe, traffic-calmed, sustainable roadway that serves the community in which we live. And with that, I will hand it over to Tina.
Hello. Okay. So thank you, Dan, for the introduction. So this is about 10 or 12 minutes, just to give you a heads up. So we were asked to look at best practice recommendations for Route 41. So our work focused on safety, multimodal access. When I say multimodal, I mean people driving, people walking, people biking, or people taking transit. And that does not, there we go. Okay. So our work was grounded in adopted plans. Some of them are up here, the Chester County Comprehensive Plan, the New Garden Township Concept Plan, Comprehensive Plan, Route 41 Planning Study, and at the regional level, DVRPC, Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. And when we looked at these have consistent themes from a network perspective, safety, and in terms of travel options. And the recommendations that I'll present today are well established and based in these consistent goals and priorities from these previous planning efforts. So this is a big decision, and decisions that are made for Route 41 now are things that are going to impact generations to come. So it's important to take time and pause and think about this recommendations because it will have, or the design of Route 41 because it'll have a lasting impact. So Route 41 should support the land uses that are there. It also should support a range of travel options so people have choices on how they travel. It's an important, when evaluating our streets, that we apply multimodal performance measures, so evaluate things for all modes, and then also think about how the street functions at all time of day, not just peak hours. So now I will step through the 5 considerations, which you've all have probably seen in our memo. If you're following the memo very closely, they're in a slightly different order, but I'm going to walk through all of them. So first, as I said, this is a big decision for Route 41. This is an opportunity, a critical opportunity to align Route 41 with the adopted planning goals. So do you want Route 41 to look like this? Oh, there we go, that works. The street on the left and be designed more like a highway? Or do you want it to be more of an integral part in the land development in New Garden Township and be a part of a center of activity where people live and shop and they can walk between land uses and places safely? And what you see on the right is closer to that alignment. Another key thing at the regional level from a safety perspective, DVRPC has a commitment to Vision Zero, and what that means is they've pledged to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries across the region by 2050. And this is something that's implemented with what's called a safe systems approach. And what we're looking at here is a few key things on this wheel, safety wheels, what this is called, safer roads and safer speed. So you'll hear me talk about that as I go through today. A key tenet of the safe systems approach is a shift away from focusing on minimizing delay for motor vehicles and instead maximizing safety for all users. So second, it's critical to look at multimodal performance approach. If we only measure our streets based on how quickly cars can move through the streets, we get a street where people can move quickly in cars. Instead, we should be measuring all sorts of different things, how people driving, walking, biking move on the street, how the street provides access to schools, parks, playgrounds, where people live. And there's a lot of best practices out there. There's a host of options for doing this. Of course, motor vehicle level of service. And this is what typically traffic impact studies are looking at, but we can also look at pedestrian level of stress, bicycle level of stress, and this helps us answer questions about, is the street comfortable? Are we maximizing safety? And this type of approach is particularly important when we're looking at a mixed use development as this area transitions in New Garden Township. Next, it's also critically important to design for safety across all times of day. So this just shows vehicle volumes on Route 41 throughout the course of the day. Most traffic impact studies, a conventional approach is to look just at peak hours and focus on peak hours, but streets exist all hours of the day. So when designing for just the peak hours, and when I say peak hour, I mean typical commuter times, maybe 8 to 9, 4:30 to 5:30, that sort of time. If we design for only those hours, we've over-designed facilities, which makes cars in the peak hour, we have overbuilt roads and people go faster. It ends up having wider roads, bigger intersections, and longer wait times. And as I said with this, with the over-designed roads, cars are going faster, and speed matters. Speed matters particularly for vulnerable road users, so people walking and biking. Just an increase from 30 to 40 miles an hour. 30 miles an hour, about 6 in 10 people have a chance of walking away from a crash without being severely injured or being killed. When you go up just 10 miles an hour, that drops to just 3 people. So that's one of the reasons speed is so important to safety. Next, it's important to consider the importance of a connected and accessible network. So this is an example of somebody walking through the development. This is a pedestrian desire line. People walking are like water. They will take the fastest path to where they want to go. So this is the desire line for somebody getting to townhomes to retail uses. As designed, it's really a longer route to get to a safe crossing here at the traffic light. And the challenge with this is with this route here, we're exposing people to risk crossing a 4 or 5 lane road. And this shows this here. This is a multiple threat crash, technical term, but essentially if one person is waiting, they block the view of the next approaching vehicle, and that exposes a pedestrian to risk, and that risk is even greater as cars are moving faster. This is an example of reduced risk. We have fewer lanes. The street is designed for people to go slower, so we're reducing their exposure, and the motorists are also going slower. This compares 2 different ways to build a street network. On the left, we have more of a connected grid. On the right, more of a sparse network. These 2 networks have a similar number of lane miles, so total number of lanes, but we can get greater capacity in a more connected network. There's more flexibility, more shorter trips. And this is consistent with what you see in the design guidelines in the Chester County Comprehensive Plan. So what does that look like applied to the white clay development? So essentially with fewer intersections, each individual intersection has to have a larger footprint, but with more intersections, each intersection can have a smaller footprint and process vehicles more quickly. So our last consideration is that, and Dan mentioned this in his introduction, is the importance of evaluating a range of design options for such a big decision. One example of another option is a roundabout. There are roundabouts on the corridor that are already functioning well. And there are many benefits of roundabouts. We know they have fewer conflict points compared to signalized intersections. They naturally slow people driving. So again, reducing those speeds. We know they have a significant reduction in severe crashes. And also they can function comparable or better in certain scenarios in terms of moving vehicles through intersections. And they also have little to no delay in the off-peak as well. Another benefit of roundabouts, they can serve as a gateway treatment. This just at the national level, some design guidance expressing that. You can use them to transition from more of a rural setting to a town center setting. As an example, in Hillsborough, Virginia, where they did that, you can see they have a roundabout here, and this is town here. So they have a transition from more of a rural context to a town center context. This is an example of how they could be applied within New Garden Township as gateway treatments. at Route 41 in Sunnydale, here at Sunnydale and Egypt Run Road, and then as you're are coming in from the south as well. So, as I said in the beginning, and I think you all know this, but this is a big decision that's going to impact people in your township for a long time, generations to come. So, I think it just encourage you to take a pause and think about these recommendations. And so, we've based our recommendations on the review of the vision in terms of planning in the township and the greater region. And this is based in best practices. So to strengthen the alignment of white clay and other developments that come along with the adopted plans and policies. Advance a design that aligns with the multimodal and safety goals, as I've talked through. And then, again, reiterating the importance of evaluating alternatives in terms of number of lanes and type of intersection treatments before advancing the design of Route 41.
Thank you, Tina. Before we open it up to any questions for the board, I just wanted to note for the audience that Troy Wildrick, who's a member of the board, he's on Zoom, so he's listening into the meeting. But are there any questions for Save?
Just had a quick question.
Sure.
I was noticing some of your mock-ups and I guess pictures of the area, it showed a lot more density. Are you suggesting we should have more density in this area to kind of justify that sort of pedestrian friendly, or what kind of level of density would you think would be appropriate for this area?
So I think in terms of our review, our focus was not on the specifics of the land use itself, but more how the streets should support, what is envisioned for, as this redevelops and creating a safe, connected, multimodal street.
Okay.
In total, how many roundabouts for this project were you suggesting?
So everything I was presenting here was to sort of plant the seed on ways to sort of rethink the street. Our effort was not going into the level of detail that, there's been a lot of technical work and analysis that has been done. So more like presenting things for consideration, not specific number of roundabouts in a specific place at this point.
And we have in the audience Ray Jackson, who's the developer for White Clay Point. Ray, did you have any questions or any comments you want to make on that presentation? Okay, thanks, Ray. Good. Well, thanks for the presentation.
There's a gentleman in the back, Ted.
Right.
Oh, question?
Can you come up?
Yeah, can you just state your name and address?
Okay, Mark Ridinger, 210 Sunnydale. There's a lot going on there, but there was no mention about what impact on other ancillary roads. For instance, Egypt Run, Sunnydale, the whole strip of the road, Reynolds Road. I think we need to see more of what's going on there. Is there going to be additions, widening, bridges? That's something, it's all got to be pulled together. And there's a lot of facts that have to be dug up from what we've seen.
Did the traffic impact study you guys did include those ancillary roads?
It included all the intersections, so big studies, so. Oh, and just to clarify, all of the solutions or all of the suggestions for all those intersection treatments did evaluate both Circle versus Lakemore.
Thank you. And Ray and his team will be presenting later in the meeting too on White Clay Point. Next item is the minutes. So we included in the meeting materials, the minutes from the March 23rd, 2026 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to adopt the minutes as submitted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next, we have the treasurer's report. Can I have a motion to approve the unpaid invoices in the amount of $319,791.58 and the paid invoices in the amount of $477,926.95?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Yeah, there is one bill there for $921.49 for my employer. I did not perform that, but I would have to recuse from that. I want to state that, and I have a conflict statement for the solicitor.
So there was a motion and a second, so we got approval. Thank you. Next, we move into the second half of the public safety report. Chief, thanks for your patience.
Just going to go over real quick some department data for the first quarter of 2026. I'm going to start, Chris, if you don't mind, just going right to Part 1 crimes. We can browse through this real quick. Okay.
You have a clicker too, you can advance to it.
Where's it at?
To your left, under, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay,
To your right, my left.
there we go. All right, we'll start out with the Part 1 crimes, which are serious crimes. When compared to the first quarter of 2025, we're down 50% to 12 Part 1 crimes. Department-wide, 8 of those were in New Garden, 7 of those were thefts, and 1 was a burglary. If there's any questions between, feel free to stop me, and if I have the answer, I'll get it for you, and if I don't, I'll get it later. Next, for Part 2 crimes, which is your less serious but still crimes. We are down from the first quarter of 2025 when compared to 2026. We're down from 42 to 37. 23 of those 37 are in New Garden. 1 was a weapon offense, 2 frauds, 2 sex offenses, 1 alcohol-related crime, 1 drug-related, 1 juvenile crime, 1 trespass, and 8 in the other category. For calls for service, we are up from 2024 and just down slightly from the first quarter of 2025 at 816 calls for service. That's not counting proactive functions. 658 of those 816 calls for service came from New Garden Township. These, I know it is difficult to see, so I'll just browse through them real quick. These are the slides put together by the Chester County Department of Emergency Services. For the month of January, there were 681 incidents. 216 of those were traffic stops. In February, 691, and 230 of those were self-initiated traffic stops. 718 in March, 228 of those were self-initiated traffic stops. The traffic report, there were 458 citations issued in the first quarter, 378 warnings. And they're up from 279 in from first quarter of 2025. For accidents, there were a total of 69 in the first quarter of 2026, dead on even with 2025, which is a decrease from 2024, as we found in the year ends of 2025 as well. 53 of those crashes were in New Garden Township. Traffic safety unit, while we are down 1 officer currently, in the first quarter, there were 85 citations from 1 officer, 141 for Officer Madonna, 226 total, 149 warnings total, 3 accidents handled, 18 traffic details, 21 truck inspections, and there were a couple weight enforcement details with no enforcement found. Just as a criminal investigation division, there were 6 cases to Detective Sergeant Smith in the first quarter. 5 of those were cleared. 2 are still active. For Detective Ford, there were 12 investigations assigned, 8. And if, when we post the quarterly report on our website, we were just waiting until after the presentation this evening. You can browse through what each of those cases were that were turned over to criminal investigations. They're broken down by category. 8 of those 12 were cleared, 3 are still active. Our school resource officer Alvarez usually handles most of the cases coming out of the school. 4 were assigned and 4 were cleared. Detective Rich Townsend, 1 investigation assigned, 1 cleared, and he's been busy with the evidence management because we are up for our PLEAC reaccreditation in May. So we are have him in the evidence room doing all of those last minute cleanup items. Real quick to, oops, sorry, I didn't go through that. Revenue for the first quarter, 41,768. Again, when we release the report, feel free to go down to the bottom and see where each of those came from. We have yet to receive the first quarter information from the Domestic Violence Center for the month. For our use of force response to resistance incidents, there were 3 incidents in the first quarter. All 3 were display of firearm, obviously ending with compliance. Department training for the first quarter, we have 24 training orders issued. And then just some department updates real quick. The annual or 2025 annual award ceremony will be on May 21st. And as far as staff goes, we have 1 officer, David Madonna, who was in a serious vehicle crash. He is out on a short-term disability for the foreseeable future. Hopefully with the 3 or 4 months are expected. However, he might need surgery. We have 1 officer that was just injured on duty on Saturday night, attempting to take an individual into custody. He hurt his wrist. And then we have another one that is going to be going out in the next couple of weeks for a short procedure for carpal tunnel. And that's pretty much the staff report that I have. Are there any questions on any of the aspects? They're probably went through a lot quick, but I'm trying to get out of your hair.
I didn't have a question on that, but this is regarding the state police.
Yes.
I know it's completely outside of your jurisdiction,
Yep.
but last month, apparently they were doing some sort of, I think it was interpreted as a citizenship sort of investigation, but I think it was just looking at licenses at the Lowe's parking lot.
I'm sorry, citizenship enforcement?
Yes, they were looking for,
I don't know anything about that.
yeah, so.
Where was
that's
this
what I mean. It was across from their barracks over in the Lowe's.
Okay. Like a traffic detail?
Yeah, they were just like, checking cars as they went into the parking lot.
Okay.
There was a concern, obviously, they were doing it on private property, but I think upon investigation, that little road is still a state road.
Okay.
So could you speak to what jurisdiction they would have in New Garden or anywhere covered by the Southern District?
They have jurisdiction over the entire state. The only difference would be we would be notified
Okay.
that they would be doing it here. Unlike some other law enforcement entities, the state police does communicate, pretty well with us when there is something going on, like DUI checkpoints. We know well in advance for those. What exactly this was without knowing, I can't speak to it, but I'm certain that if something like that were to happen in New Garden Township or any other of our municipalities, we would know about it
Okay.
and be able to get that information for you, or and participate in it possibly, depending on what it was.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you all. Have a good night. Yes, thank you. They all your prayers and everything.
Yeah.
So thank you for all.
Thank you.
Next, we have the monthly department report. Chris, anything you want to comment on there?
For the interest of time, there was nothing significant to report. It's in the packet for tonight's agenda if you need to go through and ask me any questions. Otherwise, I think we could move on to the formal business agenda at this time.
Great, thank you, Chris. Moving into new business, the first item is the quarterly appropriation for Avondale Fire Company and Southern Chester County EMS in the amount of $350,612.64. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next, we've got the White Clay Point Land Development Review.
Hi, I'm Neil Kamens with Chester Valley Engineers. I'm here with representatives from Stonewall. We wanted to do two things tonight. Both the things are two different agenda items. One is to just give you a brief update on the plans as they were submitted to the township. Went to the Planning Commission last week. We've received review letters from the consultants. We're working with the consultants and township staff to work through those items. We're also working separately with Aqua on the sewer, with Chester Water Authority for water service, and the applicant, Stonewall, and the traffic consultant, Traffic Planning Designs, working with PennDOT and the township's traffic consultant on that as well. None of those things are really my specialty. I kind of wanted to just walk through the plans. And then the second thing after we do this is we have requested a waiver of a separate preliminary approval to try to do preliminary final. So we can move on to that after we look at the plans, but just to let you know. We've got a really short, just a couple slides to go through to kind of summarize where we are with things. Just a real quick history. I'm sure all of you know this, but there are probably people both online or here that maybe don't. In the 2000s, Priet started with the first plan for White Clay Point. There was a settlement agreement reached. It was a bunch of big box development, a Walmart, a Kohl's, a Home Depot that was never constructed. In the 2010s, JP Morgan acquired the property. We were here. We had similar concept plans. They made one submission of a preliminary plan for some townhouses on the corner at Sunnydale and 41, only on like probably a quarter of the property there. That plan got continued, never really went anywhere. It was not approved. Stonewall acquired the property. We are now back with a mixed-use plan that you've been seeing with residential and then non-residential uses, commercial, probably some office. The settlement agreement was amended the end of last year. That fixed in it the densities and the overall scope of the development. We then submitted a final subdivision and land development plan earlier this year, and that's the plan I was talking about that we got review comments from the township and consultants and we're working on now. Just a quick hit on the site. They're about 220 acres. We're in the Unified Development District. The plan right now has a mix of different types of housing. We'll go through it in detail a little more in the other slides, but we've got single-family detached homes. We've got two different sizes of townhomes. We've got stacked townhouses, which is a 3-story building with 2 units kind of in each footprint. Each one gets a 1-car garage. They split the second floor and then one person gets the third. So everybody kind of gets a floor and a half. And that's on there to just be the most attainable type of housing, the least expensive that you can provide on the footprint. The park being right next to it has been a big component of this project. We're proposing new access into the park. We're working with the township on what their plans for the park are, and it'll show up some more later, but the developer has proposed to spend a significant amount of money on improvements in the park so that the entire community can benefit rather than spending that money just on recreation uses for the people who are going to live in these homes. And then there's a few historic resources. There is the Rowan House and then the barn at 41 and between 41 and Sheehan Road. And both of those are to be preserved. I think it's still up in the air, the exact uses. We've considered if the township wants to use them for something. We're also looking at what else, other uses they could do if the township doesn't think that's the best purpose. But they're remaining on the site. We don't have development right next to them so that they can function as something hopefully useful so that preservation is easier than just, we want to keep this and it just sits there. There are some changes from what happened at our submissions last year and then through the settlement agreement that was approved. And this year we have decreased the number of total units. We had 682 units. They're now 622 units. The stackable townhouses at last concept plan in December We're on the far eastern part of the site, almost at the interchange with Limestone Road. Those have now been moved next to the single-family detached along 41, so they're right next to that. And the two parcels to the eastern part of the site are going to be the future commercial or non-residential uses. And then something that different people have different opinions on. I think when we were at the Planning Commission, we heard multiple voices on different sides if this was a good idea or not, but it was the take that we had a connection from Reynolds Road into the site and then into the park. We've removed that and replaced it with emergency access connections only, so that there is no direct path for regular traffic. You can still reach the park both from, we're proposing the main access off 41 will come through the non-residential portions and continue into the park with a new road connecting it to the heart of the park. There is also pedestrian connections throughout, but there's no longer a vehicle connection. And those emergency accesses are not just like we ended it and there's going to be a gate. There's a significant portion of ground that will be essentially reinforced turf and probably some barrier, because if it's usable as a emergency access for fire trucks, you could theoretically drive any vehicle on it. So there'll be some gate or something, but it's going to look like this is a large vegetated area that doesn't connect the development directly to Reynolds Road. The product mix, like I said, with the 622, the less units, there are 261 single-family detached. There are 120 of the 24-foot wide townhomes. The 30-foot villas are essentially townhomes, just a different name as they get wider. So that's 30-foot townhomes. Those are 65 of those units. The stacked townhouses has 168. Again, that's the multiple units sharing the same 3-story building. And then we have 8 estate lots that I didn't mention earlier. Those are on Reynolds Road, and those are shown on this plan. Those are going to be permitted and kind of approved individually. So we'll create the subdivision, we'll create the lot, but they will be much more like a lot that's not in a subdivision someplace else in the township. Those will end up with their own on-lot stormwater management. And I think it's still undecided exactly how the sewer connections are going to work, but they're not directly accessed from the rest of the project. As I mentioned, the attainable aspect of the housing, the stackable townhouses are meant to be at the lowest price point that can make sense to try to give people an option for first-time home buyers, so that there'll be a range of prices and unit sizes within the development so that people can enter at whatever level can make sense for somebody. This plan does not show specific commercial development. Stonewall has been working with multiple people. We have done various sketches on different plans for different users for both commercial and some office ideas. None of those have come to fruition yet. So those areas are shown on the plan as undeveloped. We're building the roads around them. We'll create that parcel. But when this plan is approved, it will not include an approval for those specific uses. As soon as they have some definitive idea of what's going to work, how that's going to be leasable or purchasable by somebody, we're going to produce a separate plan that will then go through the same review process so that the township and the public can see what we're doing and come up with a plan that supports that. So this plan is set up to work with those, but we don't actually have those uses on this plan, and the first approval will not include them. We have looked at and shown plans previously, and one of the ideas is that we'd have a 85,000 square foot medical office building for some non-commercial, non-residential area. We talked about the park briefly, but just to mention, so we have the main drive that'll cut through the commercial and the office. It'll continue down, and we're proposing to take what is now pretty much a rough driveway and following that alignment into the park to connect to the rest of the park. We do have the township's plan for the park, so we've been working with that so we connect it a reasonable spot. We do have walkable means throughout the whole site. We have sidewalks throughout. This was one of the things that we got to do with the Planning Commission. They offered some ideas that we're looking at to consider where people are going to walk to and how to best integrate with that. We do have a walking connection from the area towards the stackable townhouses into the park, and we have another one from the single-family detached. And we have the other connection where the emergency access is, would be natural points into the park. We're going to see how all those, in addition, that people have made suggestions about where we should be trying to get pedestrians to and how that would work best. In addition to everything that they're proposing here, Stonewall has proposed a significant amount of money to improvements for the township park. So the 975,000 is the cost of building that access into the park. That's actually something Stonewall will construct. The 1.6 million is a commitment to spend that on improvements actually on the park property for the township that work with what the township wants to do with the park. That we know it will obviously serve the people who are moving into this community. They're directly adjacent to the park, but it will serve the community as a whole, that everybody else can access those. If they're nearby, they can walk. If they're further away and they drive into the park, same way they'll have those resources to get to. The sewer, the applicant's been working with Aqua on how we're going to do sewer, how it's going to be split into treatment without getting into the big details. Essentially, we're building a regional pump station on the park that will allow any infrastructure in the park to gain regular sanitary service. So as there are some improvements in the park, including to some of the old archdiocese facilities, it might have been impractical to improve those. Obviously, there's a set of bathrooms there now that works for a small state, but if some of the larger buildings were to be reused and have a significant number of people, now there'll be a way to connect them to sewer. That will also connect, obviously, everything in the development, and that sewage is going to be pumped out for treatment. There's another smaller pump station on the northern parcel that basically just pumps sewage over to the main pump station. All this stuff goes, and there was this question, and if I get this wrong, they'll probably correct me, but the project is creating additional capacity where we need to use it in treatment. So we're not just taking the township's capacity, using it all up so the township has none. This project will in fact fund the additional capacity we need so that the infrastructure will exist. The township will be able to take other areas that need sewage treatment, that they can now get it to part of this infrastructure, get it somewhere and make use of the treatment capacity the township and Aqua already have in the nearby treatment plants. Road improvements, we heard the presentation. I'm just explaining what we have on the plan right now. They're still working on this. I don't want to be like tone deaf and say, hey, you just heard all this stuff and you're telling us something else. But this is what the traffic engineers are showing. They're working with PennDOT. Obviously, as Ray had said, we are open to looking at different things and making sure that we study all the alternatives in a way that makes sense. But right now, there would be an access from the single-family detached onto Sunnydale Road. There would be a realignment of Sharp and Sheehan Roads. That intersection right now occurs almost at 41. PennDOT, going back years, has asked us to close that intersection off, kind of connect Sharp and Sheehan in a big curve, and then they have suggested a right only heading north, which is what we're showing on the plans right now. Right now, we're showing 3 signalized intersections. We're showing the Sunnydale and 41 as a traffic signal. We're showing the main route into the development, which continues into the park as a traffic signal on 41. And then we're showing an intersection at Limestone Road and 41 on one of those ramps that makes that intersection work better. That is all really been working with PennDOT and with the traffic engineers and Stonewall to come up with that. So it's still a work in progress. The plans with these traffic lights and kind of a response to one of the comments from the Planning Commission was, unlike most of the places where they have kept a single lane, and some people have mentioned that there are significant backups at the traffic lights, we are showing multiple through lanes so that the volume can get through on the traffic lights in the development. And again, I appreciate the presentation earlier. I just want to tell you what's on the plan and how it was, what goals we were trying to achieve. This is a summary of the developer contributions to different things. And it does mix, as I mentioned, like the top number is actually the 975 is improvements that are being constructed. The maintenance to the historic barn, the sewer improvements, the road improvements. So all those things are being actually built and spent by the developer. And then the 1.6 is improvements that the developer will make, but that's really towards things that are on the township list of what they want to see in the park. It's not doing things that, I mean, it benefits everybody as we discussed, but those total about almost $30 million. This is a sketch of the plan that had the change on it here. It's a colored version of what our plans are. So our plan sets about 180 pages. It breaks everything down into 50 scale sheets, and we have sets of plans for the title plans, the grading plans, the erosion and sediment control, the storm drainage, everything. But this gives you a good idea of what's down here. So these are the stacked townhouses that move. So they used to be here on the right. We've moved them over to be next to the rest of the residential development. This area here is all the single family detached. These are the estate lots. And up here is the mix of 30 and 24-foot townhouses. And then one part I did not mention, I should have, is that the only non-residential use on this plan is in fact the convenience store between Sheehan Road and 41. These two parcels here are empty on this plan. They will remain pervious areas, but the idea is that a future plan, once that's nailed down, will come in there and replace that use with something that meets the township code. We have the pedestrian gathering areas, we have civic spaces, we have walking areas, everything like that. It's just right now, those are up in the air. That's kind of a summary of where we are now. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm sure that people from Stonewall, if they need to, will speak up.
What was eliminated to get those 60 units down?
I'm sorry?
What units were eliminated to bring it from 682 to?
Some of the stacked townhouses and some of the townhomes, I think. It was really just we eliminated most of them last year as the process went forward. So the number of units on this plan is the same number of units that was already proposed in the settlement plan. So it's kind of, as we started, we had, I don't know when I want to say everything, but the density that they were looking for as much as we could do. And as we worked with the township last year, they removed density and rearranged things to meet what they thought the needs were, which resulted in fewer units.
Okay.
In the beginning, that we were going to try and stay away from all of the wetlands. And when we started doing our first layouts, we didn't have a fully updated environmental base map.
Okay.
So as that actual study came back and we found out where the actual wetland delineations were, some of it was cutting into some of our density.
Okay.
And we decided that we were going to honor that commitment to try and stay out of those areas.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? How many years have you worked on this project?
I had a little
As an engineer, right?
I had a little involvement in the 2000s. Todd Fleming from our office was the lead engineer then, but Todd had a few scheduling conflicts. So I remember going to various meetings with, township officials, and some of you are, I remember the whole time we worked through some things. And then I had a lot of involvement with the JP Morgan piece.
Okay. In the page that had the breakdowns for the units, just if I understand correctly, all of the villas and stacked townhomes, they'll be all home ownership.
They'll be all what?
They'll have their own homeowners association. And the single units along Reynolds Road, they'll be fee simple lots subdivided into singles.
The stackables are the only units that are not on fee simple lots. And if I generalize too much, they can correct me. But all the units are going to be part of some portion of an HOA.
Okay.
And so in likelihood, there's going to be separate HOAs for the different components. And then there'll be some master things that pull them together with, overall common elements and limited common elements.
You talked about the convenience store. Is that going to be a subdivision and owned by the convenience store? And do you have a lease that you can share that's signed with that or an agreement?
Were you asking about a convenience store? I
The,
just couldn't hear you.
the convenience store, yes.
So yes, there is an agreement in place. It's with Wawa.
Okay.
It's with a company called Provco. Provco is our retail development partner. The one thing that I would interject, and Neil did a great job, thank you. Our residential partner, Lennar, has asked us to speed up the process of retail. When I was in here initially and I made the presentation, I had said that retail typically follows residential. You need rooftops before the retail comes. Lennar has asked us to move that process forward. So we actually are in communication with retail developers. We have identified some potential retail users. Hopefully in the next month or so, I'll be able to announce them publicly. So we are moving that process forward. And as Neil said, we'll come back in with a site development plan for the retail area. But we think that that's going to happen a little quicker than we initially envisioned.
Mhm. Okay, and then time frame for sewer capacity. Any ideas?
The sewer conversations are ongoing. They're actually daily. We're still in the planning process, the engineering process. It looks like we're now going to not have two phases, where originally we were going to have a first phase, which running the force main to Avondale, and we were going to get 350 EDUs. Now it looks like we're going to design it and implement everything in one phase. Again, that was at the bequest of Lennar as well as the retail. The issue is that we're limited with the first 350 EDUs. So we need to make sure we have additional capacity for the retail in parallel with the residential.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to be the delay that I originally had envisioned and we originally had thought. And the retail operators are anxious too. Those conversations have been very positive. Still talking to grocers, still talking to service-oriented type retails.
Okay, and then the next one, the next one's going to tie into the request for preliminary / final. The cutout on the retail how's that going to work
So here's my take on this.
from an engineer?
Just here's my take. Normally, the preliminary process, while it's a detailed plan, especially as you know, the way ordinances evolve. So 20, 25 years ago, preliminary, you didn't have any profiles. You kind of just showed, we'd have 40 sheets, not 180. That doesn't really exist anymore. Even if we were just doing preliminary, we'd have almost the same amount of information in our plan set because it's the way the codes have evolved. But the goal of a separate preliminary approval was to lock in the number of units, the main keys of the development, like where you're going to gain access, and to get the fundamental things. You wouldn't go to the conservation district for your NPDES, so you'd kind of have the stormwater at the place we have it now. You wouldn't necessarily have PennDOT approval, so again, kind of what we have now. But our thought was, with the process last year and the multiple meetings at both the Planning Commission and the board and the settlement agreement, we feel like that did most of the lifting that would normally be involved with a preliminary approval. So we have prepared these plans to the level of detail that we think is needed for final approval. We do not expect that now. These plans are not ready for final approval this month. But as we move forward and make our NPDES submission, as the sewer planning part gets nailed down, we think those are the things we need to do to really add the rest of the detail to the plan. And rather than get to a point where maybe like next month we said we'd like preliminary approval and then we go to the outside agencies and resubmit, it seems like we are just, spinning our wheels and creating more paperwork, both for the township, for our client, and for us to do that work. We think it makes more sense that we all know how many units are going to be on there. We have a settlement agreement that dictates the number of units. The questions that remain are how we affect some of the stormwater management. Like we had a request from Somerset Lake to try to put more water in the ground. We're working on that. We think we're close, but we need to get our final soil testing to tell them, yes, we know we can do this. We're working with PennDOT. We've heard the input from SAVE. You know, those kind of things wouldn't change on a preliminary, but they would be changed in a final. So it seems the things that the township and the community want are the things that go into the final plan. And we're asking for this at this point in the process because that will help clarify how we move forward. If the township said, no, you need preliminary approval, we would probably try to address the fundamental issues. There are a few of them in the township consultant review letters and come back in with our next submission and ask for preliminary approval. And then we would take the plans that we submit to the Conservation District and include the HOP application to PennDOT, and we'd come back and do a final. And that can happen, but it just seems like a not a very good use of resources. And that's why we're asking for that now. But either way, we're not going to get, and we're not going to ask for final approval until we have all these things worked out. We're at the end of what we think we need. The township consultants and staff are happy with the level of detail. And then obviously the planning commission and the board, you know, are happy with any of the bigger picture things we need to have. And we know to affect that final approval, we would then have to get the final issuance of the NPDS permit from the Conservation District. We'd have to get the HOP from PennDOT, and we'd have to get the sewer planning completed with DEP. And we would not expect that we'll have, we might get and ask for a vote on those things contingent upon them happening, but we won't have a plan that is finished that the applicant can sign, give to the township, expect the township will sign it and record it till everything's done. And we just think it's a more sensible way to get to that same point. And that's why we're asking for that waiver.
Okay. I don't have any more questions, so.
Great. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Yeah, regarding the waiver, that's our next agenda item. I'll turn that over to Winnie.
There has been some concern expressed about granting the waiver. I think the gentleman has very well explained what they're asking for. They're not going to get approval quicker. They're just saying that this particular project has been before this board for a very long time, and much of that work, which would ordinarily have been done in a preliminary plan, has been done because we have a settlement agreement. For example, he spoke of 622 houses. That's the settlement agreement. Typically, that work towards those number of units would have happened at preliminary plan stage. We've already done that. They've submitted plans last summer. So this waiver is not really doing anything except kind of condensing the work that both sides have to do. The developer has to submit it, and the township has to review it. So it just makes practical sense, I think, to move forward with the final plan. These days, preliminary plans are the detail that's involved in final plans anyway, so it doesn't seem to make sense not to grant them the waiver. That makes sense to you.
So we want the board to vote on accepting the waiver. Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the waiver for the preliminary plan approval as discussed?
I'll make the motion to approve the waiver.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope.
Thank you.
Thumbs up from Troy.
Troy voted yes.
Okay. Next, moving into the zoning ordinance review, Chris.
Are we settled? All right. Apologies, I forgot to upload the actual brief, so I'm using the one from the agenda, so you'll see the page numeration on the upper right-hand corner here. So when your escalator fails, you walk up the stairs. So we'll go ahead and adapt and move on here. So for first and foremost, good evening to members of the board, residents, staff, Chris Himes, Township Manager. I'm here to provide what was considered to be, kind of the finality of the zoning ordinance changes since last month. We'll work to, kind of through some of the things brought up in public comment time. But essentially, this is just what happened between the last public review, which was the second overall board review of the ordinance and its kind of stated condition post-planning commission recommendation, this being the third. And kind of the changes since then were really, if those in the audience were aware of the last conversation, it was really a very long talk about beekeeping. So that's kind of where we were settled at that point. So I kind of say, like, if you're down to the nitty-gritty talking about beekeeping practices, you're in a pretty good position. But that's because we've had a very extensive public process to date. So the lifespan of this project even kicked off even beforehand in terms of RFP development, which was submitted for review in December of 23. And here we are now in April of 2026. So this has been a very arduous, long process to get to this point to date, with several milestones and touch points along the way, community input sessions, planning commission and zoning task force sessions explicitly constructed from members of the planning commission, side meetings with stakeholders from community groups. So the level of public input, I think, has been kind of well documented. But with that, we're kind of catching up from the last few months in terms of the prior public discussions, mostly from the Planning Commission, starting in the last fall to where we are to date. Kind of what we're seeing here is just a narrowing of the level of details that need to be updated as it gets to a point where we can provide for what we're really trying to get to, which is the final recommendation made by the board, not to approve it, but to submit it for review to the County Planning Commission, which is our dedicated planning entity. And they go through a 45-day review period. And all that entails for the township is during that review, we're waiting for their comments. They're advisory in nature, but I mean, they were very much embedded with this process as well, because we went through a county-led partnership, vision partnership grant. So they actually supported the project. So that alignment helps us in the long run make sure that there's no kind of unforeseen elements kind of coming forward here. And then during that process, we then find a date on the schedule, preferably at a future board meeting, to hold that last public hearing to adopt the ordinance. And that'll be part of that future process as well. But that doesn't start until that recommendation commences. So what was discussed in terms of a proposed changes between the 23rd and to date, there were no zoning map change additions from that date to this date. So the real major conversation was the map change requests from the previous, I think it was March 2nd meeting to the March 23rd meeting. And these were stated last month, and these were the reasons for why we wanted to kind of continue to amend the zoning map to reflect kind of those principles. I won't go through them here, that were stated by the board, to make sure that, we weren't doing anything out of alignment with what the board's interpretation of our planning doctrine here. So I won't spend too much time on here because the same zoning map is posted to date. There were some recommendations for some of the changes for, I believe it was also a typo, so these things do happen. Conditional use for normal ag in the enterprise, which the whole point of the enterprise district was to house ag completely. So that was updated. So it is permitted by right in alignment with what an existing state is today, as well as for all of the non-mixed use residential districts, kind of right now a mixture of the R1-ish, R2, which allow for agricultural practices as a permissible by right. So the whole point of that is within the confines of acre, you can make it consistent with the prevailing conditions or permissible, but you can't restrict it and pull it out. You can't reduce their status. As well as some consolidation of some of the definitions and the use matrix stratification for the specific agricultural composting definitions, which are specifically normal ag composting and spent mushroom composting. I don't know if you've heard, we grow mushrooms in New Garden Township, so we had to make sure that we got that right. And then stratifying that out from what is deemed to be commercial composting as a separate conditional use within the enterprise. So those were amended. And then learning a lot about the Pennsylvania model ordinance for beekeeping practices. We essentially aligned ourselves almost fully with that. just to make sure that we weren't being overly restrictive just based on the level of public input about thinking that this is a positive. And this is for accessory use, not agricultural use. Accessory uses in kind of residential areas for people to allow for bees based off of what really is their lot size and some of those ways so you can house kind of how many hives. Obviously, if you have a tiny lot and like 1,000 beehives, that would be an issue. But if you have a lot that can amend for a couple of them, then that is a deemed approvable accessory use for that. And that was per the PA model ordinance, so we just aligned with that. So those were the changes that I had reviewed for and were updated into it, but now kind of bringing some of these other ones in question, doing a quick review. And if the board wants to go through the exercise, the land use matrix, which is an Excel document, it's on the website, hasn't changed since that March 23rd session. That's been the last, other than the composting use. So that's one where we can walk through that, if you will, to kind of understand what are things that are out of alignment or not with some of the typographical errors that might be in the April, 20th version that's currently on the website. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's fixing typos, and are we okay with these updates from the last change? And I'll stop there.
You want to go through them? Good.
I mean,
You do not?
If it's just typographical errors,
Yeah.
I mean, I can
Yeah.
copy
we can look and see those.
I mean,
Because they were correct in the version prior to the April 20th one. I checked thinking that they were going to be correct, and that was on me. I'll take that one in terms of not making sure that those changes were the same, or excuse me, those updates were the only ones done for the commercial, excuse me, not the commercial, the normal ag and the spent composting. There must have been some sort of glitch, so I didn't do the full review again. Takes a long time to walk the dog. Claire, you can probably attest, it takes a while to go through. But with that, we can do it a few ways. We can go through one line by line, or we can understand that we already looked at these several weeks ago, provide for that those changes are correct and accurate when recommending it for the planning commission.
yeah, I think we are, from what I can see, I think we're good through the March 23rd.
Okay,
So that's the one we're looking at.
okay.
And
With
that
the
would-
caveat that
would-
these were the ones that we did have to
Correct.
update. Yes, okay. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that's correct. Because these are not uses. This is just to the definitions for the accessory uses of beekeeping practices, has no impact on the matrix.
Yes,
So we're talking the difference between Ps, Cs, and Ss right now, and blanks.
pretty much.
Okay. And there was no, after we did the session on the 23rd, I mean, of course, there's some that are going to be under just like a public dispute, but per the featuring of the district, that was settled during that meeting. And this was around the mixed use light district.
Correct.
Okay. And open for public comment as well, just,
If you want to give Claire, do you have anything else?
you said you had kind of the little itemized, okay. If you can provide those to me, we can go back and kind of just look at the March 23rd version and just make sure that those are accurate. It can be done several ways. You can provide me for the list and go through. Yep. And we'll make sure that happens. Yep. Okay. For the ones that were reflected upon the March 23rd, and just making sure that everything reverts back. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, that would be per the condition of making sure that this is correct, so we can do that. And what I can do is send out the document, even include the resident tonight, Claire, on that same, just saying like, these have been updated, the changes have been corrected, and per your approval, we can do that, if that's. Correct, yeah. We would need to ask for Michael Baker to do all the updates because they control the actual back end of the process. So essentially, we talk about all the changes, and I basically plunked this on our county consultant. I said, make the changes, and they provide the updated version. I think we're on, version 44 right now or something like that. But
Okay.
that's how that will go. And then just with that clarification to make sure everyone's comfortable with it. That's the most important part.
So I guess the question I would have for the rest of the board, we're okay with the final draft from March 23rd. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, with the,
Yeah.
Described, I felt was an intentional change that was discussed publicly.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
there wasn't anything that I heard Claire mention that wasn't discussed publicly.
And is
Right.
Troy on there? I can't see if Troy's on there because you've got the screen.
Yeah,
blank.
I'm on. We don't have to worry about any data centers moving into town, do we?
A lot of times.
I don't think
A lot.
there's any
So there's
perception
not
of
like just for the sake of
yes.
not wanting to go through this.
The only impact it would be is we would officially have to seek a extension for the ordinance from the county because of the contract date for the Vision Partnership Grant. And then just tack on another just
Chris, if you
month.
think it's quicker to just pull it up, it's like 6 pages, right? She's talking about the table, correct? Right.
With that, I would probably want to do a more in-depth review, more so than just those, just to make sure it's correct and in alignment with the March 23rd version. So that would probably take a little bit more time tonight. So
So do you want us to take a vote subject to those changes?
if that's amenable to the board.
Okay. Those are a motion to approve moving
As long as the solicitor is okay with it, I
the
guess.
zoning update to the board, to the county.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we approve it and send it to the county, subject to final verification on the March 23rd. One was the correct one with the just discussed amendments.
And that's only subject, just for clarification, David, to the Route 7 corridor or Limestone Road corridor, whatever the district is. We've renamed it to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what Chris was saying was he would go through and check all the
Yes.
districts just to make sure there's not any
So
sort
yeah,
of hiccups.
just to
Because
clarify,
Claire
if you can
probably,
pull up March 23rd's presentation. It's publicly recorded. It had all of the highlighted cells that were proposed for changes.
Yeah.
Those should still be like that.
Mhm.
And from that meeting, there was only some narrowing of the matrix to not have certain nomenclature within the cell for composting, and that should have been the only change. And it turns out that typographic error changed a few things. So if you're comfortable with the March 23rd version that was publicly presented with a pretty nuanced rundown of all the different changes, then that's what we'll revert back to and make sure that it's reflecting that before we would send it to the county for
Yep.
review.
Okay, so that's the motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No. Yeah.
Never.
Thank you. Thanks for going through that, Chris. Next item is the truck.
Sorry, real quick, just I think for the secretary's edification, the second was from Steve.
Yes.
Okay. Next item is the truck restriction ordinance.
You want to do that tonight, or do you want to pass that for another month? Are you ready to?
I'm ready to do it. You ready? Really?
Yeah.
This is an ordinance which would amend the traffic, vehicles and traffic section of the township ordinances under chapters 180. It restricts a truck with a trailer over 45 feet in length on Scarlet Road, Chambers Road, Hillendale Road, Thompson Road, and New Garden Road. And it also then restricts any motor vehicle over 26,000 pounds on New Garden Road, Scarlet Road, and Thompson Road. And the question I have for you is whether you want to include with this new ordinance a vacating of the existing section that deals with Class C licenses, or do you want to leave that in place?
If it makes it less confusing, Kenny, your thoughts? I do too.
Also, the old ordinance speaks to other roads that we are not putting a restriction on if you're moving restriction as well.
Yeah, I agree. I
Um,
think that's a
I
good
agree with Kenny. So you'll take that, the old language out.
I'll do
and
that,
it'll
yes,
Strictly
thank-
be a new, clean copy.
Yep.
Perfect.
You want to advertise it for your next meeting?
Um,
So you're authorizing me to advertise it to be adopted at your next meeting?
that's what we're doing this evening. Just one clarification on Scarlet Road, Kenny. Can you explain what portion?
So Scarlet Road from West South Street, which is actually in
Kennett
Kennett
Township?
Township, to Hillendale Road. That's the limitation on the 45-foot length of the trailer. And then
Okay, that makes sense.
And then for the 26,000 pounds on Scarlet, south of West South Street to its end is restricted. Great.
So the same restriction, length and weight.
Well, Scarlet
Portion.
from West South Street to Hillendale is the 45-foot length one. This is the way the traffic engineer described this. So at Scarlet, for the weight restriction, it's south of West South Street to its end, and it ends in Hillendale. So it's the same thing, it's just described different.
Same thing. Same
It's,
thing.
it's the same thing, it just, okay, it's very hard to tell from the map. So I can make those, Scarlet Road, I can just put it, I'll put it in Hillendale because I think that's clear on the 26,000.
Yeah.
So do we need to take a vote?
So, and just for clarification,
So Scarlet Road will remain as it is in the ordinance. $6,000, I'm going to move from to its end to Hillendale. Is that right? It's to, it ends at Hillendale, right? So. Yes, right. But engineers describe things interestingly. That's right. Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
he did that, not me.
and if a truck that exceeds the restricted length has business on there, they're not restricted from accessing their business.
That's true for all of them. It's local deliveries.
Correct.
Yeah.
As well as emergency vehicle.
Yep.
Same thing. Okay, I'm good.
Just a vote, just a motion to advertise it for the next.
I'll make a motion, we advertise.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Next item is the Main Street Engineering Support, the TASA project.
Was via, and apologies, there's been some technical difficulties with the camera and stuff like that, kind of cycling on and off. So I've been kind of trying to get it back up and running. So, yeah, so the sidewalk project in Main Street attaching the Newark Road intersection with Main Street, creating a 4-foot wide ADA compliant section all the way to the post office, which was part of the Township's application to DVRPC to seek federal funding. I believe dates back to about 2021 or 22 at this point. The camera just went off again. With that, the Township had the onus to provide all of the technical engineering support, and then the construction funds would kick in through federal grants coming through DVRPC. to fund the actual project. One thing extending the timeline of the project was right-of-way acquisition. It was pretty extensive, but we were finally able to get all of the property owners on the sidewalk corridor to provide those right-of-ways. So over the course of the last several months, the project has gone from kind of right-of-way acquisition to kinetic bid for approval as of this month. So where we're at right now is the original plan for, I think it was estimated based off of the scoping of the cost, was the engineering support behind it, which originally was $225,000. That was narrowed down extensively to now we're approving 35 extra on top of the existing only 40,000, or maybe it's 43 that we've spent to date, creating an updated amount of $75,000 that we would amend into our capital budget to reflect that accurate expense. But overall, it's a much lower amount that the township originally entered into, as well as I believe it was about $965,000 for the budgeted amount, came in at about $648,000 for the project. So also from a grant perspective, they're saving money as well. So with that, this is just the updating for the ongoing engineering support, which Bowman has supported, which will go into an amended budget to do a project that we've been doing for the last 4 years. So that's what the purpose of tonight is. I know a bit of a word salad, but I just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page because this thing has been extensive to get through.
Motion to approve $35,000, not to exceed the Bowman study for Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next is the airport cell tower lease amendment.
And once again,
We currently have a lease agreement with SB. Oh,
I was going to give a little bit of a rundown here real quick here. And apologies once again, the camera is, I guess it's failing. Can you confirm if there's audio available? But if anybody's still watching online can confirm.
Yeah, I can hear you.
But yes, we're just having issues with our integrated HD camera within the room, so you can hear, but you can't see anything. I'll keep on trying, but it randomly just goes off and on there. I turned it back on, but I'm sure it'll go off again. What's that? Audio's good? Okay, so we got at least one thing going for us.
Confirmed.
Yeah. All right, just having all sorts of technical issues. Well, I did have a brief presentation. Right now, we're having computer difficulties, but it is in the agenda packet for tonight, so that cell tower lease amendment is available for review. But essentially, the township has 4 lease agreements with various telecom kind of brokers, if you will. SBA, the one being proposed tonight, is one of them. I think Ameritower represents 2 of those. And then the 4th one is a company, Crown Castle. It's specifically just for a T-Mobile, more micro cell tower on the East End wastewater treatment facility. So if you could imagine, the airport tower is SBA. That's the one at the site with the beacon on top of it. Ameritower has 2, one at the actual East End wastewater treatment spray field facility that's north of Baltimore Pike, and then the other one at the Public Works conjoined Southern Chester County Regional Police facility on Route 41. So with that, sometimes we get lobbied for, sometimes we can reach out and engage with potential these cell tower brokers because they enter into these long-term leases with kind of auto renewals that provide us based off of a percentage of the capacity they're able to have operable leases out to. So they don't just give to one person, they give to many. We get a rev share back in return from that. So it can go up and it can go down. It's variable. It's kind of like you're kind of a partner within someone is renting a home and you're splitting the revenue on it. And it's one where some of the groups are looking to see if they can early liquidate and get out of the lease. They would still have access to the site and operate it. It's still on our soil. But there's not a revenue stream coming in, but the buyouts for those have to be negotiated. And so with the one represented tonight, the buyout we negotiated up to, it was lower originally to up to $900,000 for the airport cell lease, which goes up and I think we would have to get to the year 2060 before it would realize that same amount of revenue. Same thing, there was another one proposed that's not on the menu for tonight, but it's the Ameritower facility at the police building. They gave a couple different options, and that's one where we can kind of have a a immediate ability to offset some of the just general fund lost revenue. I think it was about $48,000 per year by having a 10-year payout period that would increase the revenue just for that site, which would offset the loss there and get get a immediate lump sum payment of $250,000. So the all-in sell lease kind of liquefaction cash, because that's the biggest thing right now, is the township is more stretched for immediate cash because of obviously our kind of capital cash plan for setting aside for project funding for what we're doing on our capital. But also over the course of the last 8 years now, we've bought these large open space properties with approved master plans, but have significant expense, which is why we negotiated with the developer to have them contribute. They total over the two sites of nearly $10 million of master plan expense, and we have no money set aside other than trying to squeeze money out of the open space fund and match grants with that. And so we don't have a financial vehicle really scaled enough to affect the situation to make those master plans feasible to be implemented. So this was kind of a unique situation that we could harness to create kind of like a more swelled fund of revenues coming from the liquefaction, that the loss of the revenues over the term are nominal when you think about it, especially obviously you represent the project tonight. What they didn't discuss was the economic impact study, which represents 1.5 million in revenue and tax revenues per year, non-inclusive of the one-time permit fee revenue payouts. And so that kind of blended amounts that were in the brief tonight are a way to kind of minimize the short-term pain, if you will, in the general fund, with the benefit of now we have a set-aside dedicated amount of funds to finally be capable of reaching the means for those projects. Or the board can settle in a different approach, and we can go through that during budget season as well. But that would be my recommendation. So for the option tonight is the consideration to approve the lease amendment agreement for SBA, and the terms and conditions are in the packet there, which would be one, working with the solicitor to make sure that all the conditions are met, but two, the financial amount as well. And I'm open for myself and or Winnie for any questions.
You're okay with the legal aspect of the agreement, Winnie?
Because this is an amendment to an original lease agreement.
Okay,
We can,
good.
We don't need to bid it because it's an amendment to an existing agreement.
Okay. I'm good. I'll make the motion that we accept the amendment to the lease agreement with SBA for the structure at 1235 Newark Road, which is a cell phone tower.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? Nope. Next, Smedley Preserve parking lot engineering support.
Mike, if you want to brief the parking lot, Smedley Preserve.
And is the next one related to that, the intermunicipal?
They're all kind of combining as
Yeah.
well. If you remember last month, we had the topographic survey. So this is just us executing that concept plan. So Mike, you got it.
For tonight, we're asking approval for
If you could step up
yeah,
the microphone,
sorry.
there we go.
Mike Buck, Parks and Open Space. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, for this agenda item, we're asking for approval from Bowman Engineering, our traffic engineer, to provide engineering services that will help us secure a highway occupancy permit for a dedicated driveway and parking area at the Smedley Preserve. As some of you might remember, that was included in like the phase 1 and 2 of the master plan that was approved in, I think, late 23. But as time has progressed, those items in phases 1 and 2 proved to be kind of beyond what we could afford in the Parks Department. So Chris had spoke with the Public Works Department, and there's an opportunity to partner with them during the paving program this year for us to utilize the millings from the road projects. Kenny and his team would come in, build out a driveway. It would be about 200 feet in length to a parking area that would accommodate, I believe, up to 20 vehicles. So doing this with the engineering costs overall is probably going to put us around $40,000 when it's all said and done. We're not asking for that today, but I throw that number out there because in the original master plan, it was proposed that just the driveway and the parking area would total in cost of, I believe, $340,000. So there's a significant savings here. We're also pushing this forward to provide public access. As you know, the site's public access that really doesn't exist. It's kind of just a service road with a couple of makeshift spots. Yes, people let me know about it on a regular basis. So again, this is a request just to continue that process. If everything goes well, timing wise, and everything with the paving program and Kenny's team and the highway permitting, this is something that'll be implemented hopefully sometime this summer, mid to late summer.
If you want to mention also the DCD grant. I don't know.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, sorry about that. We also we applied for a large amount of funding. We were only awarded, I believe, around $56,000. So the cost of this project will be offset by that $56,000 as well.
Great.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal from Bowman for the Smedley Preserve parking lot in an amount not to exceed $19,500.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Nope. Are you going to take the next one too?
I don't know if, I
Intermediate
mean, I
goals,
could.
right?
I feel like,
I could.
yeah. She's kidding.
I don't know if the Winnie just wants to speak to this, or I could give some background information. It was, sure. So also related to the Smedley Preserve. So one of our phase 1 items in the master plan involved pedestrian crossing improvements at the intersection of Q and Church Road. We want to focus on this area because it's the only area in the footprint of the park where we're connecting both the west and the east sides. We're asking folks to cross Church Road. As you know, there was a fatality there as a pedestrian was crossing. So when we're looking at safety and site access, this is one of the things that was on our top of the list to address. We worked with Bowman to assess the site, do traffic studies. They came back to us with some proposals. Part of the proposal involved working with West Marlboro Township to install a traffic calming solution on West Marlboro Township property. So if you think about the intersection of McHugh and Church Road, to the north is West Marlboro property. So folks would be approaching from the north, heading south, crossing this pedestrian crossing, and then coming up Church Road, which is in New Garden Township. It's a state road, PennDOT managed road. Those folks heading north are going again towards that intersection there. So in order to really get a holistic solution, again, we reached out to West Marlboro. I actually met with them almost a year ago. I think June, back in the beginning of June, whatever the first Tuesday was in June, and 25 to start this conversation. So here we are, again, almost a year later, with some back and forth. They have agreed to allow us to make improvements on Church Road in West Marlboro that include, I believe, a speed bump, some road markings, and some signage. As part of that, they've asked that the township maintain just the improvements, to pay for and maintain the improvements, which are reasonable. We will not take on the responsibility of snow removal. So West Marlboro will still treat the roads for ice, for snow removal. PennDOT will still do the same on the sections that are in New Garden Township. So today, we're asking that, so the culmination of this project, this effort has ended in, or has gotten us to a intermunicipal, intergovernmental agreement that I guess puts into writing our agreement. Yeah.
Okay.
Winnie can probably explain that part better.
So the law says that when two governmental units join together in an agreement, they have to adopt it either by a resolution or an ordinance. Resolution is fine. So there's a resolution on the agenda to approve the agreement that Mike has just described. That's the resolution restates a lot of things, but essentially it approves the agreement concerning the speed calming devices.
Device. And again, this
And signage, although the signage is not in Westboro, right?
We will have signage and road markings in West
Okay.
Marlboro as well, yeah.
So just need a motion to approve the
I'm
resolution.
happy to make the motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Are you going to talk about Lambourne and White House?
I could.
Go ahead.
So Lambourne House, lease agreement is just up for renewal again this year. So it's the same term and conditions as last year. And we'd just like to extend it to the tenant again for
Okay.
the 2026 year.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did you just mention Lambourne? Did you mention the White House too?
I mentioned Lambourne House, but then item K is for the White House. Same thing. We're just extending
make the
the
motion.
lease agreement. Yeah, awesome.
The same thing. It's a lease that's been long-standing, so not a lot to think about.
Second.
All in favor?
Thanks.
Great. Next, we've got the Brandywine Valley Sports and Rec Use Agreement. Is that you again, Mike?
That's me again as well.
Nice.
So they, again, kind of very similar to the tenant leases. BVSR has requested the use of New Garden Park again for this year. Again, same terms as in previous years.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. I think you're done, Mike. We got Kenny next.
And I've got one more.
Oh, Farmers Market,
Oh.
sorry.
Farmers.
Yeah, so the farmer's market facility use agreement. So last year, we developed a facility use agreement, which had not been in place.
Yep.
Prior to that. We think it worked out really well. However, that year we put it in place, the Rowers Market kind of dissolved as an organization. So since then, they've reincorporated under another name. They have new members, and that new name is now the White Clay Commons Farmers Market. So they're going from the New Garden Growers Market to White Clay Commons Farmers Market. They would like to essentially just use the same facility use agreement that the Growers Market had in the past. So that's what's on the agenda tonight for approval.
Great. Is there a motion to approve the facility use agreement?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, Mike.
I
Thank you
just
so
had a quick
much.
question for Mike.
Yeah, yeah.
Given their choice of name would imply that they would be moving down the street at some point, to where White Clay Point would be. Have they spoken to you about possibly using the barn or anything like that, or?
They have, yeah. They're very interested in moving their location to White Clay Point if and when it's available, yeah.
At some point in time.
Yeah, at some
the
point in
future.
time.
Okay.
Actually, they actually told me in conversation that the whole reason they decided not to dissolve the market this year was because of the opportunity to
Oh, that's
move
great.
White Clay Point, yeah.
Yeah, and it would be a shame to dissolve it and then try to restart it because they
Right.
do have following.
It would be a shame because that
Yes.
chicken is delicious.
You're making.
Does anyone else stop there like every weekend? No?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Kenny, you going to take the equipment?
We picked a bad agenda for all this stuff.
Sorry to keep you all night.
What's that?
Sorry to keep you here all night.
This is way better than what it was when I first started 10 years ago.
3 times a charm.
That's right. So in front of you, you guys have a proposals for a couple pieces of equipment. All were in the 26 to 30 capital improvement plan.
I love it when you start a story with that
Mm-hmm.
it's already in the budget.
We did move some stuff around just due to the equipment. One of the vehicles failing constantly and then adding a new person. So we need to shift things around a little bit, but it had minimal impact on the budget as proposed with the changes that we made. So we would like to move forward with purchasing that equipment. If you guys had any questions about it, I can answer, or
I think we already peppered you with questions.
say
in the
we can
budget
get out of here
meeting.
before that thing chimes again.
I love it.
Agreed.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope.
Thank you. And then the last thing is with the equipment that we've replaced over the years, and some of the stuff we acquired from the sewer sale, there is a lot of surplus equipment that has been sitting and is no longer useful to us. So I would like to get approval to move that down the road as well. Anything over $2,000 is required to go to public auction of some sort, or have a formal like advertising thing where we'd have to have a bid opening and all that, or an offer opening for each individual item. But if we send it through municipal bid, they handle all of that. So all we have to do is upload the information, and then
They handle it.
they
Yeah.
handle everything. Is that
We've
is
worked with
correct?
them before,
Okay.
so sounds good to me. I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny.
Any other questions for me while I'm up here?
No.
No, thank you, Kenny.
Have a good night. Thank you so much.
And last item is the Mason-Dixon Coordinating Committee.
Yeah, so this was brought to attention by staff in concert with the previous historical commission meeting as a continuation of supporting or having an established mechanism to continue to support the implementation of the Maryland Arc Historical Interpretation Plan that the township approved as the master plan, if you will, with the 4 participating jurisdictions. So what this does tonight is kind of provides clarity for the board to direct the historical commission to be able to just have these discussions, essentially intermunicipalities, about exploring possibilities for grants, as well as supporting each other and coordinating kind of how to find resources. And if I'm misrepresenting this discussion, please let me know. I won't put you on the spot. And sorry, I didn't know if you were going to be here tonight to actually speak to it. I would have put you earlier on the agenda considering it was a long meeting, but it was brought very kind of last minute for last week. But
I'm
figure
Paul
I'm not missing
Agassi.
anything with it.
I am the chairman of the Franklin Township Historical Commission, and I'm the person who initially floated this idea to my supervisors. So I approached my supervisors and basically said that I would like to continue to network with the historical commissions who are involved in this plan. One way of looking at the Mason-Dixon Line Heritage Interpretation and Connectivity Project is that fundamentally it is a vehicle for justifying the seeking of grants for aspects of the plan. This does not mean you need to set out and adopt every aspect of the plan, but for example, it proposes improvements in signage at various trails in New Garden. So should you seek grants in order to accomplish that goal, those grants can be cast, those applications for grants can be cast in ways saying that they align with the goals proposed in the Mason-Dixon Heritage Interpretation Project. The point of this group is to keep talking about these ideas, exchange information, provide support when a given town decides it wishes to undertake something. It does not create a commitment on the part of any township to undertake any part of the plan. It does not create a commitment on the part of any township to provide support for another township, although a letter of support acknowledging that what one township is undertaking is in alignment with the goals of the plan is not unhelpful. It's a way to keep talking. It's a way to exchange ideas about finding grants and what grants might be a good idea. Some townships have been working on what are known as wayside signage, the sort of decent sized signs that can be found in parks explaining things, and some sort of the folks who have been associated in the greater Oxford area. I believe it's the Oxford Regional Planning Commission Historical Preservation Subcommittee have worked on such signage. So I'm also proposing that they sit in on this because ELK is part of their group, so that we can simply exchange ideas and seek out information that would benefit all of the participating townships in order to develop ideas that relate to historic preservation. And to basically exploit the plan in order to accomplish that goal.
I am happy to make a motion to approve.
So, and what I would also like to make a small change in this,
Okay.
I would like you to authorize participation in the coordinating committee, not to authorize its creation. Basically, once everybody is involved in it, we will simply create the committee. Since it's a multi-township committee, it's not really the point of any one township to authorize its creation.
So we'll change the wording, Chris, in the minutes or the agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Agreed.
I'll second.
Motion, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks for
for
coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
very
for
much.
your patience.
Thank you.
Chris, did you have anything for the manager's report?
No manager report tonight.
Awesome. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, all adjourned. Do we have to sign something? Resolutions?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have.